All right, so we are looking at the second part of 2-3. So yesterday you had a quizzes assignment. If you did not do that, after we finish our notes today, I am going to send you guys individual messages on Teams for those of you that did not complete it, and I would like for you to finish that in class today. I have updated your grades with most of what you've turned in to me. So, with us being both at home, what I'd like you to do is if you are my student and if you're Mr. Maynard's student, you could do it for him as well. Send us pictures of any of the notes from 2-3 that is missing for you. Sorry, Mr. Maynard actually just texted me. We're trying to get him into the link as well. So, like I said, we are just going to have to take your homework via Teams. So I put assignments out there. So if you go to Teams and give Mannion in here, since both you and I are out, they have to upload their work for us on Teams so we can keep their grades uploaded. Mrs. Ward was awesome. She photocopied the 2-3 study guides for us and passed those out. So they have copies. They have copies of those study guides out in their classrooms. So we are, kind of just going to go through some of the study guide questions with them and hopefully keep them on track. And we'll go through that worksheet now. All right, so we have that 2-3 study guide, and we're going to talk just again. What does it mean to solve a multi-step equation? Well, to solve a multi-step equation means that we have to take many steps. We are going to take as many steps as we need, and we're taking those steps backwards. So you guys have been really good about telling Mr. Mannion and I exactly what step we need to take and how we need to take it. So hopefully you don't lose that ability as we kind of transition into this new phase. So for example, in that warm up, we have 5x plus 3 equals 23. So our steps backwards would tell me we're going to get rid of addition first. So if we're getting rid of that addition first, we're going to get rid of it by subtracting to the other side. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So that leaves you with 5x equals 20. And then we want to get rid of multiplication. So the opposite operation to multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 5. And we get x equals 4. What does it mean to check? So Mr. Mannion and I keep stressing check, check, check. So we are going to have you plug that 4 back into the original. So you get 5 times 4 plus 3. And we want to make sure that that equals 23. So 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 3 is 23. So we get 23 equals 23. All right, give Miss Ward a thumbs up if you are good, and we can move down to the bacteria question. All right. Oops, moved my mouse. Bacteria. The bacteria culture doubles each half hour. After 3 hours, there are 6,400 bacteria. How many bacteria were there to begin with? So now we're starting to look at equations where we have to come up with the formula. Like, well, you have to, no, you don't multiply it 5 times, you double it. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, the 200 is correct. Because 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times, because that's what Mr. Mann and I were discussing. This is definitely an exponential, which you're not at. So I was trying to do it in terms of a problem we could do. We cannot do this. Yeah, you can see I wrote it on the board. I followed what you said. It's 200. We were just saying you can't come up with an equation. Like we were trying to make you a multi-step equation like we've been doing. One, two, three, 4, 5. Yes, but that's representing 6 half hours. 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hours, 6 hours. So, kiddos, just to give you a wrap up, the answer is 200. We will not be this cruel and confusing on a word problem. And now I'm going to make sure before we leave you today that I go do the other word problem down at the bottom that came off this study guide. Actually, yeah, it's on your homework, isn't it? There we go. So go ahead and do me a favor. So instead of working through some of these exercises, maybe let's go look at the second word problem. And I can already just tell this one's set up way more linearly because we have a day and an initial cost. So this is an example of a word problem we would expect you to be able to do. So let's look at the car rental example. So it says Angela rented a car for $29.99 a day, plus a one-time insurance cost of $5. Anytime you see the word one time, that's kind of like initial. Initial in math is our y-intercept. And we talked about y-intercepts with you back in 1-8, where you were graphing functions and we talked about linear and nonlinear, increasing, decreasing, and you talked about your y-intercepts. So that's our y-intercept. That's our initial. One time is initial. Cost per day is a repeating cost. A word for cost per day or repeating is slope. So we're going to say that variable D is days. And we're going to say that C is cost. And we want to know what was her cost based on number of days. So we're going to create an equation that represents cost per day plus initial fees. So a big part of solving equations is also being able to write equations. So in this case, you had to write your equation to be able to solve it. It says her bill was $124.96. How many days did she rent the car? So you need to determine what variable you're trying to find and what variable you're plugging into. So is that $124.96 going to go in for variable C or variable D based on what we know? And I know you guys can't answer me because you're on mute, but it's our cost, right? If you think about cost, cost is money. So it's 124.96 equals 29.99D plus 5. So we're going to subtract the $5 from both sides. And you would take your calculator, because again, we don't expect you to remember how to do some of these multiplying, and you're definitely not going to be able to divide by 29.99. So you take your 124.96, subtract 5. So your calculator should have 119.96 equals 29.99D. And then I want you to divide because that's the opposite operation of multiply. And when you divide by 29.99, you isolate variable D. And what does D represent? It represents days. What are we trying to find? How many days? So that solves for our days. And personally, I can't take 119.96 divided by 29.99 in my head, and I know it's going to be a nice number. It's 4. So we get D equals 4. So what that means is how many days did she rent the car? Well, Angela rented the car for 4 days. Now, give Miss Ward a thumbs up if you think that makes sense. Give her a thumbs down if you're like, nope, I don't get it. Can't make sense. She can't rent the car for 4 days. Maybe. Some in the middle. We're all good. All right. Do you guys want to see one more problem? Or, oh, I see Mr. Mannion's got his whiteboard. I'm going to give him. Do you want one of the problems up here? Corey? Okay. I'll put you back up here on an exercise. Corey, hold on, buddy. I'll go. Someone's at my front door. I'm going to give you the spotlight. Spotlight for. There you go. Oh, sorry. There you go. I don't know how they could have this from before. I made this yesterday. All right, guys, so I know your bell's going to ring too. So hopefully you got that first question done with Mr. Mannion. Your homework is to do just that second page that says homework. So we want you to try 7 to 15. So we already did 10 and 16 with you.